Hey everyone, so today we're talking about the Tyreek Hill arrest. What we're going to do is we're going to break it up into three sections. One is we're going to talk about it from the police officer's perspective. Then we're going to look at it if you were in that position, right? If you were Tyreek Hill, handled the situation a little bit better, significantly better, and this could have been much worse. What happened to him was not good. So I'll give you guys just a few quick pointers, right? As far as the power dynamics, given what the circumstances were, and see how we can maybe apply that to your situation so you don't end up in a worse situation. Let's start off with number one. So from the police officer's perspective, I think Tyreek Hill messed up. He had his window down, right? Because they were talking. Police officer pulled up next to him, right? They're still driving. He had his window down. He should have kept his windows down. We're talking about from the officer's perspective. He comes up to the car. Windows are up. Windows are tinted. He doesn't know who's in there, right? Necessarily, right? At that point, what if it's somebody that's got already a gun pointed out, right? And he rolls down the window, and then, right, in less than a split second, the officer is gone. If you're in their position, if you're in their line of work, which they chose to go into that line of work, but it's still something that you think about. It's something that you're still concerned about. It's still something that crosses your mind, every so often. And depending on how skittish the officer is, it might cross his mind on a daily basis or maybe every so often, right? So that was, from his perspective, I could see why the police officer got upset and was irritated. In fact, when Tyreek decided not to open up the window right away after he closed it up, the officer actually looked around, kind of like, what the hell? And it was the other officer, right? The second officer was the one that really escalated the entire situation. But that was all bad, right? And once again, looking at it from the police officer's perspective, I can see why this was irritating, why this could have been a dangerous situation, despite the fact that it was a nice car, right? You never know what's going through people's minds. Even people with a lot of money sometimes have bad days. You never know what's going on, right? In people's lives, no matter how much money and successful they are. Maybe he's having a bad day and all of a sudden he's feeling a little, suicidal/homicidal, right? So it's dangerous, right, for the police officer. And then if we look at this, if it was you, right, let's talk about that. And I'm just giving you my opinion. This is not legal advice. If you're in that situation, like, you're getting pulled over, like, bring your windows down. Bring your windows down. Have your driver's license ready to go. Don't wait till they show up, because you've seen what happens sometimes. People end up getting shot unnecessarily. And that part of it is not right at all. But it's have your license out. Like, I just recently got pulled over. I went for my driver's license, front pocket. And even then I realized, and I made the mistake, right? So I didn't do what I'm telling you guys you should do. And normally I do that, but sometimes, you have these mental slip ups. And I waited till talking to the officer to go for my driver's license in my front pocket. And I saw him flinch. Yeah, he flinched. So stupid of me. But what I'm saying is, don't do that. Like, have your windows down, have your driver's license out, and have your hands on your, steering wheel. I was listening to somebody else commenting on this. The idea is you want them to make this as easy and as smooth as possible. You want to be done and over with this interaction. If you're being wrong, right? If the officer's wrong, you can go ahead and handle it some other time, somewhere else, but not there. You're not going to sit there and argue with the officer there. Before I get into my third point, Tyreek in that sense was lucky. This could have gone really bad. Like, the moment that he pulled up his window and then he just kind of cracked it afterwards, like, the police officer at that point, given what we've seen in the past, and I don't know if this is part of their training, he could have pulled his gun out and had him at gunpoint at that point. This happens. So it's not, this would have been a one-off. And in some ways, he would have been justified, right? In some ways, depending on what he saw during that first couple interactions. Anyway, so he was lucky, Tyreek Hill was lucky that he didn't get shot. Also, something that he did that I strongly advise against, in my own personal opinion, not as an attorney, he was sitting there just running his mouth, talking, arguing, making comments. If you understand just human nature, like, you understand if somebody's already escalating the situation, unless that's what you want, right? If that's what you want, go with it, right? See what happens and see, how that turns out. In general, he should not have been just running his mouth. That's not what you want to do. You want to be as respectful as possible and just be done with the situation. And the only way to be done with it quickly is to follow directions, right? Follow instructions. Don't aggravate the other person. Just think of just two ordinary people, right? At a bar, and then they're arguing and then things are starting to escalate. And you know that the other person is the bigger, more aggressive person, or the person that's ready to swing on you, even if they're not necessarily bigger, but they're the ones that are really just on edge and they're ready to take this to the next level. Just using some human psychology and understanding human nature. The last thing you want to do is keep running your mouth, right? Like, you're bound to say something that's going to trigger that person if that person's already on edge. And that's what happened here. So, and he just kept running his mouth. So that part of it, as far as how that applies to you or me, bad idea. Don't run your mouth. Answer questions. Yes, officer, no officer, whatever, right? And then be done with it. If your rights are being violated, you can go after them later. You can sue them. You can file a complaint. You can do a number of other things. You can watch the rest of my content and we can talk about that some other time. But the final point that I want to talk about, the power dynamics. And I think this part of it is important because it didn't matter in our society, police officers, they're given a lot of power. And that's not necessarily a bad thing to a degree, because you've heard me talk about the abuse of power. But understand that even if that police officer is wrong, assume that for a moment, that there's a number of things that were done that were just wrong. They're a little too aggressive, a little too violent, whatever it is. The last thing you want to do is try to go toe to toe against them. You can't. You just can't. Whether you're looking at it, I mean, unless you're trying to go just, like I said, like suicidal, right? Like you're wasting your time. They got way too much power. So you don't sit there and argue with them. And that's what he did. They have all the power. And when you're in a situation like that, you have to understand the power dynamics. And in life, this applies. Find yourself in different situations, and business, well, more than a couple businesses, 2 main businesses, but a number of other smaller ones. It happens all the time, and I have to explain it to people that work for me. Yeah, what they did was wrong. Yes, this is their job, their responsibility, but understand the power dynamics. We need them. They don't need us. So because of that, we have to go the extra step. We have to do something that maybe isn't part of our job. Maybe that's part of their job. Those are their processes, systems, and whatever, right? That they have to do. And that's important. You have to understand the power dynamics of whatever situation you're in. This one here is pretty clear cut. There's not much to it. He's a police officer. He's got a gun. You don't. And even if you do, like, the chances that you can go toe to toe against them, even if you do have a gun, that's stupid. That's not the way to go about it. That's not going to work. The outcome is not good, no matter how you look at it. So as far as the power dynamics, they have all the power. When you get pulled over, you don't have a lot of power. Do you understand your rights? Like, so for example, sometimes you'll see these videos of people that know their rights, and they'll sit there and they'll argue with an officer, calmly discuss. You think of your rights, right? If they're searching your vehicle illegally, you can respectfully ask, what's the probable cause? What is it I'm being pulled over for? Or why are you searching my car? Or why is it that you're wanting to search me? What's your basis for it? In a very calm, respectful way, but you're not going to fight them, right? If they want to violate your rights, so let's say, for example, they search your car and you know they're doing it legally, you're not going to sit there and go toe to toe and fight against them to keep them from searching your car. That's stupid. You're going to end up getting shot, you know what I mean? Or end up getting hurt because they got all the power. And it's you against entire squadron of vehicles that can show up like that quick. So that's not what you do. If you're concerned about them violating your rights, you let them know, but understand the power dynamics. At that point, you voice your concern, but then you let it go. They got body cam footage. You can get the evidence thrown out. There's a principle that we can talk about some other time, but it's called fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine. And what that is, if they violate your rights, like searching your vehicle illegally without probable cause, without reasonable suspicion, if you're on parole, if they do that, then at that point, and then they find something that gets you in trouble, and it could be any number of low. Just so you guys know, I'm not advocating for doing illegal stuff. I'm just saying, you have something small that gets you in trouble, like, you can get that thrown out. It's an illegal search and seizure. Do you know what I mean? And it's not one of those things where, like I said, you have to draw a line in the sand in that moment, because if you draw it, you're in trouble. You don't have the wherewithal to defend that line. You don't. Push comes to shove, you're screwed. So just once again, keep in mind, it's not that difficult nowadays to get body cam footage. And if they're being overly aggressive, you don't have to try to fight aggression with aggression. Then you can go ahead and sue them afterwards. There's no need for you to make a bad situation worse. Something that I think is worth mentioning. You understand, some of these officers, right, that pull you over, they were prison guards first. Some of them start off as prison guards. And if you listen to some of my other content, then you understand that sometimes prison guards have some serious mental health issues. Like, some of them are not, they go into it with mental health issues, right? So there's something wrong with these officers to start with. And for one reason or another, right, they slip through the cracks and they keep getting promoted. And then before you know it, they're out there, dealing with the public. They got mental health issues. Like, some of them are damaged individuals. And some of them start off as normal people, but too many bad experiences with inmates, right? So with Tyreek Hill, you saw that there was an officer there that was way too aggressive, way too quick. Yeah. And you saw some of the other officers were a little calmer. And you saw one of them all of a sudden took it personal, right? That was there. I don't know if it was one of the other players. And he was trying to come to Tyreek's, rescue. And not rescue, but he was just kind of observing and calling somebody because his orders weren't obeyed immediately, got set off. And he's like, let me get your license. No, this conversation is between me and you. This is no longer forget what you told the other officer, forget what the other officer's telling you to do. Now it's me and you, right? He made it personal at that point. That's not the way it should be. He just went from 0 to 60 quick, and it was personal. You could see it. You could hear it in his voice, in his body language. Yeah, that's not the way it should be. But if you do find yourself in that situation, you're not going to sit there and argue with them and fight with them. Like I said, it's not an even fight. It's not a fair fight. You know what I mean? They got all the power. There are people like that become officers that got bad temper. So you have to understand that if you do come across somebody like that, it's not necessarily personal, right? Even though it seems like it is, they got some issues going on. Who knows? Maybe their wife just cheated on them or something, right? I don't know. Husband just cheated on them. Whatever it is, it's their issues. And then you're not going to be able to go toe to toe against them. So anyways, I hope that was helpful. It's important to understand power dynamics. It's kind of like, just to give you another example of something that's similar, it's like if you're in court, you have to play the game, right? In court, you have to be respectful to the judge, even if the judge is violating your rights. And you can stand up for yourself, right? And this is a conversation for another video. You have to do it in a way that acknowledges, right, and takes into account the power dynamics. Anyways, in some other video, we'll kind of go into more the nuances of some of the different powers, right, of 48 laws of power. And it's not about manipulating, but it's about understanding power dynamics. No matter how much it sucks, and you have to put your ego aside sometimes and understand that there's not much you can do. You have to live to fight another day, right? Tyreek is going to live to fight another day, but that could have easily gone south. And if it had been me and you, who knows? Maybe it wouldn't have turned out so great. So anyways, just something to think about. Hopefully you got some value from this video. Thank you for your support, and look forward to seeing you in my next video. Thanks.